it's Jessie from b.a.r.e Flower Farm. We are T-minus 1 day from me going back to work, and I am spending today cleaning up the farm. So I had put out a video before saying that my field growing season for at least the summer is coming to its end, even though we are at the height of summer. So I anticipate that with me going back to work, with us needing to get into a new routine, and realistically the baby getting sick due to daycare, I'm not going to have as much time that I would like to dedicate to the farm. So all of it right now just means that I'm trying to prepare it either for the spring or to get a fall flush of things that I could still get a flush out of. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, because as I was clipping the rudbeckia and basically giving it a Chelsea drop, meaning I cut it very, very deep. I remember when Serena and Ian did this last year, they took a weed whacker and just weed whacked their entire row of rudbeckia. They got a lot of questions on social media and there was almost like an uproar. So let's talk a little bit about that. First, I just want to say that even though all this rudbeckia looks really great, when you get closer, there's a lot of damage, especially from the beetles. So our Japanese beetles are starting to come out. The flea beetles have been absolutely terrible this year. I mean, look at this ruby one. It's just completely demolished. And maybe there's a few good ones here or there, like this one kind of just popped up this morning, but I really don't have a use for these right now. My CSA is going to be all lily based. So that means that I am hacking all of this down. I'm actually going to leave a little bit though, just because I want the pollinators to have something and I want the beetles to still have something. So I'm going to leave a few here, and it's also going to be a bit of an experiment because rudbeckia should come back in the fall for a second flush for me, assuming I cut it all the way down. And I use snips to do this. So the one thing that I don't like about rudbeckia is, I've said before that even though this looks like 10 blooms, I'm really realistically only going to get like 3 out of it because of the branching habit. So because of its branching habit, it actually makes it easier for me to snip, because I can just snip at the very bottom and I get a whole bunch of blooms with it at the top. So that's the positive of it being so branching. So I'm going to leave a patch over here for the pollinators, and then I'm going to eventually hack it down when it's done. And then this part's already hacked down, minus the weed whacker piece of it to get it really low. And I want to see if I can potentially succession bloom the rudbeckia in the fall. I have a feeling that these, if I don't hack them down now, may not make it to blooming for a second flush, but that's totally okay because it could act as a trap crop for those beetles. And this side, hopefully I would get some more. So I still have more rudbeckia. I mean, you can see that there's actually a lot that's here. Even the yarrow, someone asked me, am I going to dry it? I would love to dry it. I just never had the time to do it. So same thing over here. I'm going to probably hack down, I would say, at least 3/4 of everything. Keep a few stems up as a trap crop. That ruby one, or I think it's a Sahara, just came up the other day. I swear it didn't have that many blooms. So I feel like now I'm swimming in rudbeckia, except I don't have a use for it. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but this is my wheelbarrow right now full of rudbeckia. Guys, look, this is 3 stems. This is what I'm saying. Rudbeckia feels like there's a ton of blooms, but in reality, there really isn't that much if you're trying to get single long stems, because something like this, somewhat usable, especially if you're using a jar, but for the most part, so many branching stems, but very pretty on its own. This is the infamous compost pile that has housed all of the other things that I've had to rip out due to thrips. I've had a couple of people ask why I'm just ripping it out and not burning it or doing anything else. And from what I've read, thrips can fly, but they don't fly like normal flies or insects that we think about. They almost kind of hop. And if you think about how small they are, they're incapable of flying long distances without the wind. So this is where the pile is. That's where the field is. I'd be very impressed if they could fly back onto the flowers in my field. I think it's more likely they would fly onto some sort of weed around here or get carried by the wind to the weed. My husband just mowed, so that's why it looks so good right now. But in, I don't know, like 4 or 5 days, this lawn is gonna be white, covered with clover flower heads. So I have a feeling that that's where they would go if they are able to make it out of this pile. Now, when I dumped it in here, I did also douse some water on there just to make it more unlikely for them to be able to fly, because the water does saturate their wings. But we all know that thrips are small, they're stealthy. It's impossible to coat every single one of them with water. So some probably did get out and fly. I just don't think they flew to my field. And this boy is literally laying right next to the compost pile, like a good dog. So, why did I weed whack my yarrow? 2 things. 1, yarrow is a perennial, for me at least. I'm in zone 6B. It will come back next year. Now, I was just watching b.a.r.e from Blossom and Branches, I think that's the name of the farm, out in Colorado. She said that they actually get a second flush in the spring because they have such dry weather. We've gotten a lot of rain lately. I'm not counting on a second flush. So I want these to come back next year, and I want them to come back with long, strong, sturdy stems. Second reason why I'm weed whacking is because I am not going to be able to stay on top of picking the individual stems, and they will go to seed, and I will have yarrow everywhere, which is not the intention. I want organized yarrow. So yarrow grows very aggressively through the rhizomes, but it also aggressively self-reseeds. So just make sure if you're growing yarrow, if you don't want it to reseed everywhere, get on top of it. So the weed whacker is really great. Honestly, I might just let everything stay on top of there, kind of as like a cover crop, keep the soil covered. There's already roots inside that soil, right? So it's feeding that soil microbiome, but that cover on top is going to help be like a natural mulch basically for the soil. So I might just leave that there. I've got a little bit more yarrow down there to weed whack, and then I might call it a day and get back inside and spend the rest of my day, my last day, with my kid. Before I weed whack this, I just want to show you what it looks like right now. So this is yarrow that has just gone way beyond maturity. You can see it's starting to dry and yellow. Now, I know that some people dry yarrow. I've never dried yarrow, and I'd also be interested to hear if you've dried yarrow, what stage do you pick it at? Because some people say you want to wait until you see little patches of this yellow, but I already know that this variety doesn't dry true to its color, meaning it's not going to be as bright and vibrant. So I certainly don't want to be drying yarrow that's going to look like that. So what stage do you pick it at? Do you pick it at like this stage over here, which is what I would pick, honestly, for a regular bouquet? Or do you pick at this stage where it's just a little bit of that orange? Or, I don't know, is there another stage? So yeah, let me know in the comments. One last thing, guys, I have larkspur that feels like it just continues to grow on very short stems, of course. But larkspur, when it reseeds, is something you want to be careful about, especially if you have livestock or animals. So I have a dog, but that dog luckily has zero interest in eating my flowers. So I feel fine letting it go to seed. But if you were to let it go to seed and have it sprout everywhere, larkspur is extremely poisonous, especially in that young seedling stage. So be sure to take it down if you have a situation with livestock. I'm just weed whacking it down. Some of these stems are so thick, the weed whacker can't even take it, so I have to actually snip it down. But I'm hoping that these might even overwinter, since larkspur does. I don't know. Let me know if this is not a great idea. Let me know if they just get spent after 1 year. I honestly haven't done any research on this, but I saw it. I had the weed whacker out and I was like, let me just get rid of this right now. And maybe I'll even get a fall flush out of it. So we'll see. Hey guys, it's Monday, July 17th, which means I'm back at work. It's after work in the evening, still very, very hot, but better than during the day. So got my pathways or the perimeter mowed, which is all grass. This time of year, I regret putting in grass, but most other times of year, I don't regret it because when there's no clover, I use the grass clippings as living mulch. And then, as you saw, put down this white stuff, which is actually siding from that garage project. So we had stored it on some grass, completely fried the grass and killed all the weeds. And I was like, what am I doing putting plastic, solarizing and all that stuff when I could just put this stuff down? And it's pretty heavy, and you know, I don't have a ton of pieces, but I think if I just leave it here for a week or two, I'm gonna kill some of the weeds, maybe more than a week or two, maybe at least like 2 to 3 weeks. I'm gonna smother a lot of these weeds and then start moving them, and then that will be my fall prep. And I was actually even thinking that these panels will be great for overwintering any dahlias that I keep in the ground to keep moisture from going into the ground. So I'm gonna end this video here. As you can tell, there's just a lot of maintenance going on. We got a lot of rain over the last 48 hours, and the weeds are just going ballistic, but it's okay. Every day I've been harvesting a little bit more lilies here and there. So that is really what is keeping me going in terms of sales. And then now is the time of year for me to enjoy my vegetables. So I'm going to do a vegetable outro for those of you who are interested in seeing what I'm growing. And I will see you in the next video.